Hey, good morning, and welcome to another episode of the Fueled Life podcast. And I am totally excited about what we are talking about today. Not that I'm not excited about the other content, but today really hits it home. It really drives it home. And my question is, as I set this up, is have you ever found yourself stuck in patterns that don't serve you and you feel like true change is just out of reach? Well, you're not alone. But imagine this. Imagine this. Your mind is a canvas, a fresh canvas every single day, ready to be reshaped, repainted. You've got a color scheme available to you to experience the new brushstrokes towards the life that you desire. I'm your host, Stanley Dietrich, and I'm joined with my co-host, Charlie Collins. And we're here to just dive into this. So, Charlie, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here on a beautiful morning here. I'm coming to you from Connecticut, and the sun is shining, as you probably could tell. And you said, Stanley, a blank canvas.
Yeah.
Isn't that what is possible to look at it that way? But I got to tell you, when I got up, my canvas was so intricate and complex that there was no space. There was no blank on there for me to even contemplate or entertain that. You mean I can move aside, have a fresh start, and start putting my own pathways, my own directions, and my own systems on here that'll serve me and those I live with and where I work. And I had no idea until somebody taught me about neuroplasticity.
Yeah. And that's the thing, Charlie, is that we've been told for so long, science said that you were born, what brain you had, the thinking, it was already predetermined, and people bought that. And they didn't want to push the boundary. They thought, okay, well, I'm going to be this confined in this little cage. And so I'm stuck with the brain that I had. And then they discovered that that wasn't really the truth. This isn't just science. This is an invitation. Neuroplasticity is your greatest potential, and it's one that's done through one intentional thought at a time. And that's what the beauty about this is.
I'm just hardwired that way. That's why I continue to show up or make the same mistake. It's just I'm hardwired that way. And it was so easy, that was such a great way to not take responsibility. And then they came out, I forget, UCLA, wherever they woke up to the fact like, wait a minute, the brain can continue to learn new ways, and you can teach an old dog new tricks. You can learn how to play the guitar at age 40. You didn't have to start at 15. You don't need some special wiring to be able to play a guitar. That is a lie. You need to start creating new pathways, and that's done by repetition.
Yeah, and I love the way you said that, because you and I have not had a conversation about this, but you said, you can teach an old dog new tricks. The idea is, even if you can't teach, I got to get this treat and teach thing together here, okay? So I'm going to rewire my brain. All right, okay. So even if you can't teach an old dog new tricks, you are not a dog. Okay, unless you're walking around on all fours, okay, you're not a dog. So your ability to rewire your brain is absolutely within your capacity. And once you get the freedom, there have been times when somebody says, "Well, why can't you do that?" And you go, "Well, I don't know. They just told me I couldn't." And I'm like, "What if you could do that?" I find it amazingly funny, humorous, when you're talking to someone and they say, "Well, I don't know." And I'll say, "Well, what if you did know?" And then they tell me like 3 or 4 different things that they could do. And I go, "Well, what if you did know what you could do? What would you do?" And then they tell me, and it's like, they're rewiring their brain in that moment. And it is the ability to just have that blank canvas. What would the picture look like if you could put any of these colors on there? Well, I don't know. Well, why don't you just give it a try and see what it looks like? And
Right.
that's what we do with our brain when this thing called neuroplasticity, it is making new neural connections inside of our brain.
Yeah, and how do we start with this? Well, it's one term we could think about is metacognition, and really all that is knowing, thinking what you think about, and knowing the process. Because I can say I want to change, but then here I am doing the same something that maybe isn't helping me move in a direction. Well, how did I get to that point? Well, I got to start thinking about what I'm thinking about.
Right.
I've got to really slow down and say, what is the why? Why am I? What is going on? And I remember coming back and starting to recognize that. And Stanley, first thing I had to start with was I programmed myself to have ants. So I had automatic negative thoughts all the time. So that was wired. So when I saw something, that always happens to me. Oh, I never figure things out. And I always suck on computers and I can't stand this. And so that was just my automatic response. So what I started out by wearing an elastic band on my wrist. And as soon as I went negative, I would snap it and I would say, ow. And it was just a disruption to the pattern that had been formed over the years. I wasn't hardwired a negative person. Most of it was self. Like I might not share it. I just self-internalize the negativity a lot. And of course, it expresses itself eventually outside of you. But I had to start waking up. Oh my gosh, I am, we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day.
Right.
And if mine are pretty much automatic negative, well, I'm not getting near the results, or I'm not on the path that I could be on, but I don't know any different until I wake up to that.
It's amazing, Charlie. When we talk about rewiring the brain, I had my neighbor came over and he had replaced an outlet on the outside of his house. It's a GFCI, a ground fault current interrupter. And he came over and he said, hey, I got a problem. I hooked it up just like I took it off and I've got power, but it won't trip the breaker. So when I press the test button, it won't trip. And I go, well, I'm sure that you just have the wires in the wrong position. He said, no, I've put it on just like it is. So you've got the two prongs, okay, the vertical ones, and then you got the ground. Well, he put it in just like he took it off. But the power coming in was switched from the load to the lead. And so he had power, but he couldn't have it tripped. And so what I did was I looked at it and I go, yeah, that's what they did. Was it they had a commercial plug in originally and he got a residential plug and they're flip-flop. So you got to change them out. And that's all I needed to do. So it's just by rewiring it, although he had power coming in, it was lit up, but it wasn't getting any power because it was tripped. And just by switching those two wires, so there's only 4 wires, there's 2 coming in, 2 going out. And just by switching that, he got everything that he wanted. And it was ground fault circuit interrupter. Now, this is what happens in our brain. We have all the hardware, but we've got to change it by putting in new software, updating the thought process. And that is why rewiring, and it's not just a one and done. And that's what the beauty about this is. It is looking at the canvas in a different manner, looking at it in a different way. And just like right now, my camera is not adjusting for the light that's coming in. So it's really making me bright. And this is what happens in our mind. Same thing. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to adjust my camera so I'm not looking like a ghost and looking like I need to be out in the sun. And that's what happens in our mind, though. We can't see that.
But you make a good point. It's like, instead of getting angry, and your automatic response isn't like, this sucks. This always happens when I'm trying to do podcasts. You know what? I wish we'll just shut this one down today because I look like Casper. I can't even see myself. I blend into the background. And it's like, well, wait a minute. There's some light shift going on and I can do something about this. And that was where I had to start, Stanley. I had to recognize my negativity towards me mostly, and how I believed that that was the right process of thinking. And really, what is a belief? It's something that it's either moving you in a direction. It's something you believe, right? And whether it's working for you or not. So I started challenging. Does this work for me? Is it helping me aim in a better direction and move forward? Because I now know that the canvas is waiting for me to start putting some new strokes on it. And whatever color, whatever vision, however I see it, I get to be the creator. I get to begin with the end in mind. And then I get to come back and say, starting now, I'm going to start rewiring this pathway. And over time, it happens.
Yeah, because science has proven that we can create millions of new neural connections daily, no matter what your age is. So the demystifying that you're too old or you're living in the wrong environment or any of that stuff, or you've been told all these different things, you have an opportunity to change this. And science has proven this. Millions of new neural connections every single day. It's up to you. So there's nobody that's stopping you but you. And if you need help doing that, this is what Charlie and I do. We help people create these new neural connections by rewiring and reevaluating, looking at the scenario or the situation in a different light, and asking the question, act as it, or answering the question by acting as if, and asking the question, imagine what could be, not when we ask the question, what if, a lot of people ask the question, what if, and they always have this negative, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't, what if they say no? But what if they said yes? And what if it does work? And that's where the new neural connections come in, and the excitement in our brain, it lights up like a Christmas tree.
Mm-hmm. It does. And that's a great point, because if we're just operating on autopilot each day and going and getting up and doing our normal thing, going to work and blah, 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 and it just keeps going and going. And hey, you're living life and all that. But when you start introducing new thoughts, new theories, new visions, like you said, it's not so much you haven't created the pathway, but it doesn't matter because you've lit up the brain. It's saying yes, because it's two functions. It likes to keep us safe, but it also constantly wants to grow and learn. It wants to, send that electricity around, and it wants to form new connections.
Yeah, I love how you said that, Charlie. Yeah, because when you say that the brain wants to, it is hungry for new information. Just like your stomach is hungry for physical food, your brain is hungry for new knowledge, new things, new habits. Hey, there have been times in my own life where I got trapped into my mind, wishing that I could do something different, that I could think different about something. And I wanted to break free from a habit that was holding me back. And it wasn't so much that you would know it, but internally it was like, why can't I get past this? And it was holding me back. And many of us feel like that at times. And it is knowing the ability that we have, it releases the bondage that we're stuck. And here again, it's talking through it. It's having a coach. I've had coaches. I've had several coaches in my own life, as I know you have, Charlie. And this is what it made us think things differently. And it became very practical, very simple. And, complexity is the enemy of execution. So don't make it complex. Don't think you need to know everything about your brain. Just bring something new in, and it develops those wires.
It does. It's like the outlet. The outlet now it'll function
Right.
properly. And it's not that my brain it was functioning properly. I just had designed a model that wasn't serving me. And I can redesign that model. And I do want to go back to the guitar for a minute. When I finally said, what if I took some lessons and I got a guitar and I started trying? There's 7 notes: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Done. 7 notes, but there's lots of strings and lots of frets on a guitar. Well, you don't need to know all that. I tried a couple of different ways, but I got a teacher that understood how to teach. And when I would, Stanley, press on, like, let's call it a G chord, he would help me put the right fingers in the right position. And then he would take his hand away and my finger would pop back off because the connection wasn't there. I was excited and I was trying, but it was hilarious. My finger said, that's a weird feeling. Let's go back to not doing that. And then I said, no, you don't. I want you to listen to me. Go back. And no. Yes. And then eventually, I can go through all those 7 notes with my eyes shut, and the pathways are formed. I can unconsciously pick up a guitar and go through all sorts of stuff while doing something else. That is where this brings us. We can go from unconscious incompetence to conscious competence to conscious incompetence. Competence, and then to unconscious competence. So what is that? That is being able to pick up a guitar and go through several things on it without having to think about it. And the brain, body, and spirit connection are all in synergy.
Exactly. It's creating that new habit. It's, we are creative beings. Every single day we are creative. And the sun is being its own creative light source. But in any event, how many people do something different each day? They get up on the same side of the bed. They take the same steps to the bathroom or wherever they're going to go. They walk mindlessly to the coffee maker. They press the button. It's already set up. They walk over. They do the same thing. They go through the same rote experience, and they wonder why they're not having a unique experience in life. And what happens is we get into these patterns, these habits, and we say, I'm just beyond that. I can't learn anything new. Well, if you just change up your environment, and instead of doing the same thing, sleep on the other side of the bed. And, and I've shared this 100 times, and I'll share it one more time. I sleep on both sides of my bed. One week I sleep on the right side. The other week I sleep on the left side. And what it does is it creates a different pattern. Most people will reach over with the same finger and they'll turn the alarm clock off with the same finger every day. And then they open up their phone and then they're watching Facebook or social media to get caught up. And then they wonder why they're back to feeling like they felt the day before. And they go, nothing ever changes. Well, nothing changes unless something changes. And like, we're getting a great light show right now with my light going in and out, in and out, in and out with the sunlight. I can't control that. So what I can't control, I don't worry about. And I just keep moving forward of what I can do and get creative. And so how does that work? Well, it's rewiring your brain.
And you can't go to a doctor and he can't install new wires.
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere and have it like the car. Your vehicle has you can plug into it and get readings, and some of them you can actually install and make changes in the onboard computer of the car, and the car will handle differently. It'll shift differently. It'll do things differently. You can make updates through that. Well, we don't have that plug in or click. I wish we did. Wouldn't
Right.
that be awesome?
Oh, man.
Somebody has like a template. Oh, if you install this template, you will make more money, have more joy, you'll have more free time. I'm like, and that is all possible. But the thing with our brains is that we've got to do it. There is nobody that can install that into us. Now, Stanley, you mentioned try sleeping on the other side of the bed. If I did that, my wife would say, "What the heck are you doing on my side of the bed?" So it isn't that easy. But I hear what you're saying. When I would go to hotels, I did 55 flights in 2019. And that's a lot of hotels in there.
Yeah.
And I never slept in the same bed or the same side or all that kind of stuff. I love the challenge of doing it differently. It's like I go, whoa, I got to get up on the other side, because again, we fall into the same patterns, and the same patterns usually don't help us grow because we're not in charge of the pattern. Our subconscious, our unconscious, our body is so used to the way it feels, the way it behaves. So it just does that daily.
Okay, so in the chat, I got a private chat, and it says, I've been stuck in a certain pattern for years. Can this thing called neuroplasticity help me change? What do you say to that, Charlie?
What do I say to yes, I can't say it any better than that's the beginning of the change, is saying first believing that there is a way and this is the way, and making a decision to hire a coach, to read a book, to start doing something differently immediately.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, and what Charlie and I are both sharing, is that we discovered one day that we could not do it by ourselves. So we hired somebody to help us do it, not for us, but with us. And and that's the key. There's nobody that can do it for you. It is just making that decision and going, imagine what it would be like. Imagine, imagination is the beginning of creativity. So imagination is, and I say this on my website, or on my YouTube channel, is that imagination is the only limitation to transformation, because imagination is like the seedling, but it takes the creativity to create this tangible experience. But it starts with imagination. And, every great adventure, every inventor said, well, what if we could take and not have to have candles? What if we could create power that we could control and turn on by a lever? What if we could have a non-consumable that would actually illuminate? And by changing the way that it was always said, no, this is the way that it's always done. I know that when Henry Ford was developing the car, people, if you were to ask people what they really wanted, they'd just say a faster horse. And Henry Ford said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to put horsepower in a engine. And now you're going to be able to go further and more comfortable, and there won't be as much of a mess on the street. Can you imagine if everybody rode horses in towns right now, how inconvenient that might be? Especially if you're a street cleaner.
I think that would hurt. That would, how would you handle emissions?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That would be kind of cool. I wouldn't mind that for like a week or two. And,
Yeah.
there'd be a lot of racing. There'd be no speed limits. It'd be kind of cool. But yeah, but when it got real chilly out, I'd be like, wait a minute, let's go back to that heat in the car thing. Yeah, I know. And it's vision too. It's how do you see yourself?
Right.
Do you ever stop to think about? I mean, because Stanley, metacognition, you gotta stop. You know, that thing in the park that goes just in circles, and you just run around and jump on it. It just keeps going and keeps going, and then say you have it's almost like having an automatic motor on that, and you're just staying on it. Well, it's time to jump off, roll through the chips, the sand, whatever, and stand up and go, is there another way? Is there a better way? How can I? You
Right.
know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't like that. If it's ain't broke, improve it.
Right.
Find a way that helps you, because you can, and you will, because my gosh, for me, believing that my legal blindness, my eye disease was who I was.
Mhm.
It's going to give me the results in life. And because I'm not as sighted as you are, I'm less than you. I'm not as smart as you. I'm never going to be able to drive. And that's true. I couldn't get a driver's license. I'm never going to be able to get places. I'm going to not have my independence. This is a belief system I formed because I kept firing those thoughts. And then I got those results.
Yeah.
I was struggling. I believed it. I was miserable. I was depressed. I couldn't drive. I wasn't independent. And then time to start changing that, because all of that was a lie.
You know, it is a repeated practice. It is continually engaging in that. Repeated practice creates those new positive habits. And, you know, imagine, a baby when they begin to walk, and how many opportunities do you give a baby to walk before you just say, kid, you're not going to get it. Just sit down. You're better off sitting down. I mean, how many times would we do that? No logical parent or grandparent or even a neighbor would say that. No, we encourage them. And when they fall, we celebrate it. And when they get back up, we celebrate it even more. And that's what we do with ourselves. If we do it for somebody else, taking that and doing it for ourselves and repeatedly practicing those new positive habits, learning something new is a great way to rewire and create new neural connections. And it creates that neuroplasticity, because this is the onset of Alzheimer's and dementia, is when the learning stops and the brain, if you don't use it, you lose it. So It's never too late. So if you've lost it, hey, today's a new day. You can regain that and start learning something new. And it may be a little bit challenging, but go back and look at it again. And if you can't get it, then find somebody to get you help to get it. Decide what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, also, like you said, just try something new. If you don't want to take a look at everything, but you want to challenge this. Well, whether it's playing the guitar or painting, or is it learning how to garden better, or a new approach to the garden that makes sense, or because all of these things, not only does it challenge the brain, wake up the brain, form new connections, and make you healthier, it's also very rewarding. The brain and body will release chemicals to help support you on that journey. There's many, many, many things that I've learned over the years that if you had asked me, I mean, even in the beginning, sometimes I'd say, I don't know if I'm going to be able to learn this. Now, I don't say that. I say, I don't know in this moment. But I believe over time, putting in the effort, asking for help, hiring somebody if I need to, watching YouTube videos. And you got to be careful because we can get bad instruction and bad guidance from people who don't really know what they're talking about. And so then I start working and moving. And the little wins, the little successes, those little things help move me to the next stage of my development. And I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, one of the skills that I've learned over the last 5 years, I never really understood what meditation was because I thought, man, I cannot sit for, more than 5 minutes and my mind starts wandering. I sit down and I try to meditate and my mind just starts running rampant. Like I'm chasing rabbits but it is just settling the body and learning something new. And here again, it was hire a coach. It was get material that gave you instruction on how gave me instruction on how to do this, and knowing what is going to happen also eliminates feeling like that automatic negative thought, like I just can't get this. That's where that neuroplasticity comes in and goes, oh, that's what's going to happen. Okay, so I'm normal. Actually, I'm not just normal, I'm above normal because I'm actually implementing something into my life to get a better result than what I have in the current state where I'm at. Also, regular physical exercise, regular physical movement boost brain health and neuroplasticity. It's a proven fact.
Yeah. And it also takes 20% of whatever you're eating. The brain needs fuel. And if you're putting the right high test tier 1 type of fuel in your body, then your brain is going, yeah, thank you. I can fire these connections even with more ease, and you're not giving me canola oil to do it with.
Right.
Even though I like lubrication, just not that one. Yeah, this is so cool because I don't know. When I didn't learn this, I didn't know this. No one ever taught me this. So I know, and I'm not blaming, and maybe they did, and I just was blind and deaf to it. I don't know. But I can tell you when in 2008, when I was sitting in a conference and they said, we're going to go and start meditating. And I'm like, I don't meditate. And that's kind of weird.
Right.
And then they said, we're going to bring the lights down and everyone's going to shut their eyes. And I was embarrassed. Even though everyone's not going to be able to see, I don't want people to know I'm shutting my eyes. I am so not a meditator. That's like, you don't get stuff done when you do that. and And then so I did, and I kind of looking around a little nervous, but anyway, I did it. And then now let in your head count to 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, this is not that hard. Well, obviously I couldn't even get to 10. And then this is stupid. When I got to 8, I said, so he said, anyone have a thought in between the numbers? I'm like, yeah. So start over until you can actually shut your eyes, take a breath, and count to 10.
Right.
Well, that's the beginning of meditation. And it will start, it rewires, it reorganizes, it gives it does magic to the brain and mind.
Yeah, because you became the master. You settled the brain down and you said, you've got to count to 10. And when you couldn't fathom that, the person giving the instruction said, hey, if you have a thought, start over. You've got to get to 10 and this is what happens is we start to feel defective. And then we have somebody that's already been through it.
Yep.
And they say, this is a natural response because your mind has been the master and your body actions has been the servant. And now we got to flip flop that. And now we take this tool and we use it for what it was designed to do, but we give it the instruction.
That's right. And like in the Thriving Blind Academy that I am the co-founder of, we have a children's book, and it's What I Can Be Is Up to Me.
Right.
It doesn't mean, it means that you stop, reflect, think, then act. It means, and as a child, I might hear some biases if I have an eye disease, or I have a limp, or my speech is a little off, or I'm a little dyslexic, or whatever the story is. There's always people, school system, parents, family that speak to that in a way that doesn't serve us. So we might latch on to that belief. We might think it's, let's put this kid in the front of the classroom, even though that didn't help me because I could still not read what they were writing on the chalkboard, but they still put me there. And I felt dumb being there because everyone behind me thought, look at him. He has to, you know what I mean? Who knows what the truth was?
Yeah.
But that's the kind of things we want to say, wait a minute. And I went back through my life and I looked, Stanley, and I thought, oh, that was so awesome. I got to sit in the front of the classroom. I mean, it was nothing more, nothing less. The lighting was better. I loved the two people. The one person to the left of me was very kind. And, and if I sat in the back where the cool kids sat, I never would have connected with that person who I'm still friends with. So I looked at all the ways that my brain was getting. Now my brain is wired differently, so it can see the truth in things, my truth, not the truth, but my truth.
Yeah. It's nothing has any meaning except the meaning that we give it.
Right.
And so when we're rewiring our brain is as we look at it in a different perspective, a different light, kind of step outside and go, what else can I do? And I know that there are people that are listening to this or will catch this, and they've had these experiences in their life, some trauma like you shared. Here, take that small example that Charlie just gave us about, being moved to the front of the class and feeling like you were separated from the rest of the people, and it was working against you. Why was this happening to you? But look at it and go, what is this happening for me? How can this be happening for me? And when we apply that statement to it, then our mind begins to create different thoughts, different ideas. And when we use that in a positive manner, so let's just say you've had a trauma. It's not, how can this neuroplasticity work? It is a gradual process that slowly turns that wheel. And, I'll show some of my clients in posture, what they look like when they first started working with me, because they graduate over the period of months and they take for granted how far they've come. And I'll go back to their intake form and I'll say, do you have knee pain? No. Do you have headaches? No. Are you waking up in the middle of the night? No. Are you having brain fog? No. Do you have any limitation when you're running? I mean, you wanted to run, you're running now. Are you having any limitation? And then they go, no. And when they start to do an inventory check, and then I show them their pictures and I say, what do you see different? I don't tell them the answer. I bring up both pictures and I say, what do you see different? And they go, well, my shoulder's different, my hip's different, my head's position different. And it's amazing what happens. And this is what happens in our brain. It's not like jumping off a cliff and you're going to hit the bottom. It's like gradually climbing that mountain and then looking back and saying, wow, and celebrating it. And that's when we hardwire those celebrations, that all the difference gets made.
And you do hardwire. You do, because that's called unconscious competence. It becomes, I don't have to think about it.
Right.
It happens. So we're coming right to the end here, and I wanted to throw two things out. One is life best lived is life by design. And who's the designer? We are, of our lives. Otherwise, if we don't take that responsibility, somebody else is going to design it for us.
Yep.
And then we're going to get pissed. Or we're eventually going to go, wait a minute, this doesn't work. And the second one for me is don't believe what you think. Think what you believe. And if your belief structure system isn't moving you towards the aim, the direction, the growth that you feel and want to move towards, well, get some new ones. It's not that hard to go. And Stanley, you said it. What if I could learn how to play lead guitar? Never thought of it that way.
Right.
Okay. Then so that's me. Don't believe what you think, because it might be you could never learn lead guitar. No. Don't believe what you think. Think what you believe. I believe that I can learn lead guitar. So what would it look like if you did play lead guitar? What would it sound like? Who do you think might be able to help guide you in that process? Ding, 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 pathways, opportunities, and it's moving in the right direction.
That's it. And that's a great place to bring this to a close, Charlie. So I want to thank you for this engaging and inspiring conversation. We talk about this all the time just in our talk, and it's like, what could we do? What could be happening? And just exploring the possibilities. I mean, what do we have left to do but explore? I mean, isn't that what life is all about? Exploring? Yeah.
Yep. Excellent.
So, awesome. So until we meet again, in the meantime, if you have enjoyed this podcast, like, subscribe, and share. Yeah, give it the thumbs up. Leave a comment. If there's something that you want to know more about, just send us a comment. You can reach out to Charlie or myself, and we'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you and explore what the possibilities are so that you can create the life that you've dreamed about and you can experience a life that you've been dreaming about. Until then, we'll see you next time, and have an outstanding week. I'm out.